Yeah, so am I. It's really great to see all these all these attendees. I hope everyone here gets at least something out of today, and hopefully continues to kind of rejoin us week to week. I can start off by
my thing. I could care less.
oh, also maybe Celeste, do we want to? Could you possibly keep everyone muted? That way, no one accidentally.
I'm gonna get bored probably.
So. Yeah, that would be good.
So
okay.
if everybody can stay muted for now, I'm gonna be monitoring the chat, and I believe everybody has like a little hand that you can actually raise if you wanna talk. So I can also keep an eye on that. Hi, Marina. Perfect.
Oh, hey, okay. Marina. Oh, yeah, glad you could make it.
Okay, so we can start whenever we're ready.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself, and then maybe Celeste, you can introduce yourself, and then actually probably go straight to you, Marina. And I'd love to hear. I think we'd all love to hear you talk about kind of where the kind of role you'd like to also play as part of the series. But so I'll start off. I'm a software engineer by trade. I went to college for computer engineering, and I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia, and then at Georgia Tech. And then I started working it's been 3 years now. I've been working for a financial institution called Abrigo. So we make software for banks, particularly like small banks. For all of you like Connecticut natives, you probably know of Webster Bank. So like they're one of our pretty substantial clients. So I write some software for them, but also for banks all across the country. And so I write web software primarily. So I'm a web developer, full stack web developer, which just means I work with all different parts of our web code. So that's kind of my experience and like what I'm hoping to bring to all of you to answer any questions you have, or hopefully just teach you something that you didn't know about before. But this class is going to specifically, or this series is going to hopefully focus on app building. So we're going to hopefully by the end, you'll be prepared with lots of tools for building your own application. Oh, and my name is Page, by the way. Thankfully, we have Zoom to tell you that because I don't think I even said that. So yeah, my name is Page Swanson. And I'll pass it over to Celeste now so she can introduce herself. So.
All right, thank you, Paige. So first of all, thank you so much for a second season of working with you. Last year we did a Learn to Code and it was great. And this year we kind of come with the idea of build an app. So I'm so happy to have so many people. I'm Celeste and I work in Ives Square at the New Haven Free Public Library. I'm from Argentina and all my studies are in librarian. I built websites before and I'm really, really happy to have you. So basically my job, I'm gonna be kind of a mediator here. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on the chat, keeping an eye on Facebook Live. If anyone wants to speak or anyone has a question, I can try to answer it, or I will, if Paige doesn't see it, I will send it to his way. So thank you. And I think we can give it to Marina. So Marina is like our third party here. And we're so happy to have you, Marina. So if you want to tell us a little bit of yourself as well.
Cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Marina Manuelejo, and I'm the entrepreneur in residence at the New Haven Free Public Library. So that's one of my roles, right? And then outside of that, I'm the founder and executive director of DreamKit, which is a web-based app. We're moving to a mobile app, which is really exciting. But it's an app for young people who are experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And my role here is to come at you all from a non-technical founder's perspective. I think building an app is really intimidating, right? There's language and vocabulary that you might not have any idea what it means. I know I didn't at the very beginning. And so my role here is just to be a form of emotional support, professional support, business support, if you feel like this is overwhelming at all. Coming from, right, I started a tech nonprofit and I've never taken a coding class before. And so I very much came with a vision and was able to resource within the New Haven community and find support from developers and coders and people who can help make that vision a reality. So again, like, I just want to let you all know, if you don't have any technical background, it's absolutely okay. I mean, it works. It works if you have the vision, you have the passion, and you have the excitement for building an app. And so, long story short, Dream Kit, in the very like quick elevator pitch, it's an app, right? It supports young people who are experiencing homelessness, and we basically pay young people $50 a week to build new skills, professional skills, emotional intelligence skills, educational skills, and then we aggregate all of their data in their own Dream Kit profiles and share out their progress and their new skills with people in New Haven who can help them, right? Share it with landlords, with employers, with mentors in the community. We're very much the middleman, and, you know, creating this community for young people who are unstably housed, bringing them in, paying them for their growth, helping them meet basic needs, and then sharing their progress out to the community who can help. So it's an app. Our devs or developers are creating the mobile app version right now, and it makes me really excited. So again, I'm here to support any and all of you who might feel overwhelmed or intimidated. You got this. It's a lot, but it's very, very doable, and I'm here to help. So I have office hours as the entrepreneur in residence for the library on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. and Thursdays from 9 to 11 a.m. I can throw the link in the chat. Happy to just brainstorm with you if you feel like you're really early stage, and if you're a little later, like, let's talk about strategy and let's talk about growth and scaling. So anywhere in between, happy to help. I can talk for longer, but pass it over to Paige, and I can answer any questions separately and privately in the chat if that's helpful for all of you. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Marina. And I actually just wanted, if you could say really quick, I was just curious because I don't even think I asked you this before, but how long did it take you from kind of start to this point now? Like, when did you start working on this, like, from today, just to give people an idea of like really how quickly you can sort of move?
Yeah. So I originally had the idea in December 2018, thought about it, kind of thought Dream Kit was more of a research project. And so when I pitched it to some folks, they very much guided me in the direction of like, no, this sounds like a business and this sounds like a nonprofit. So if you're interested, like, go for it. So all of that being said, we incorporated as a tech nonprofit in August 2019. So it's been a little bit over a year, and we have 50 plus folks who are staff, interns, volunteers. We serve over 40 young people in the New Haven community who are experiencing homelessness. And we've been able to give out over $6,000 in these like gift cards and compensation to our members. So all that being said, the real growth has happened within a year in terms of, it's called an MVP, but launching an MVP, which stands for minimum viable product, kind of getting your app out there. For us, it was web-based version. Right now we're doing mobile app, but getting something out there that works, test it with the community, your customers, and then iterate, grow, fail, learn, build on that. So it happened quickly. To be honest, like, I dedicated full time to this. So it takes effort, but you can definitely get some really good progress done if you're committed and you give yourself some time.
Yeah, I think that's super encouraging and really awesome to hear. I mean, it's really incredible that basically in the span of like a year, you were able to like get this stood up, and having like a non-technical background and just the ideas alone, and with the encouragement, it sounds like yeah, just really encouraging. So I hope everyone else kind of shares that same kind of interpretation that I do, because I'm definitely super motivated when I hear about what Marina is able to, or what you're able to achieve. So thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Okay. So given that, again, just like Marina's like a resource at the library as well as I am. So I think I'm going to try to offer as much as I can, not necessarily just completely technical perspective. I mean, I certainly also have interest in like ideas about apps or what you can do with applications and like their kind of boundaries. But I definitely am hopefully going to be able to serve as like a guide or reference for what is possible with an app or what is technically like achievable, and kind of like scoping your idea, or also just implementing it, like what resources you might need to do an implementation. Whereas I'm hoping Marina can really offer like insight around everything else, like what is a good idea and how you could scale it, and how you know, you can start a business from it, or potentially design ideas and stuff like that. So hopefully if you have those questions, yeah, she can be super helpful there, and maybe I can kind of balance out. So that's what definitely we're trying to bring with this series. But without further ado, I think we can get started with maybe, like, I was thinking maybe we could do a somewhat of an informal poll, but I don't.
We can do that.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
I
oh, that's right, yeah. So I think Celeste is gonna prepare this Zoom poll here. And I was hoping everyone that's joined so far, again, thanks everyone for joining. It really means so much to me and us at the library, because we really want to, the point of this is to share knowledge. So the more people that join, like, the better. So yeah, Celeste is going to share a Zoom poll, and hopefully you can answer it. It should just be a quick poll, but I'm just trying to get an idea basically of how many people in here have coded before. Like, there's, you know, no reason for you to have coded before. It's definitely going to be geared that way, but I'm just very interested in everyone's background from that perspective. So I'm gonna check my notes really quick while she sends.
Okay, so I just sent it. Let me know if you receive it. Yes, everybody's answering really quick. That's awesome.
Okay, and then while everyone's answering that, let me try to, first of all.
All right, so we have about 35%, 7 people that, yes, they coded before, and 65% didn't code before.
Okay, awesome. Okay, great. That's I think like a really healthy balance. That's really cool. So cool to see some people that do have the experience, and also really happy to have people here that are fresh and excited to like learn.
Yeah, so almost 40%, the results changed. So 38%.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, glad to hear that. That's awesome. I think that's really cool. Okay, so I think what I'll start with is just by sharing my screen. Oh, could you enable screen sharing for me, Celeste?
Yes, of course. All right, let me know if you got now.
Okay, yeah, I think.
And for the ones that came a little bit after the 6:30 or 6:30, I shared a form, like a pre-survey, also with few more questions in Google Forms, and I can actually share the link with you. And whenever you have a chance to fill it up, maybe after or whenever, you guys can fill it up as well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sending that out, Celeste. So I was gonna start by just kind of introducing. Well, I found this article from sort of one of these app development environments, which is something a lot like we're going to be working with through the series. This group is called Ionic. So they basically write software. They've created a platform that will allow you to make applications using, you know, a variety of different programming languages and programming tools. What they created this article on like hybrid app development, and you know, I'll share the link actually in the chat. Actually, I might send it at the end. That way I don't have to like take the time to send each one individually, but I'll make sure to share all these links. But basically they're going to talk about like some sort of technical stuff. But the reason I think this article is interesting mainly is because I think there's really like 3 sort of types or classes of apps. So when you say that you want to build an app, you know, a lot of people, I think what first comes to mind is like the super traditional, like, you know, I have my phone, right? And then so I like go to my home screen and I can click like an application on that home screen. And I can like open that app and then I can use it, and it's kind of like a little self-contained tool or something like a calculator or a contacts app. So this kind of app is actually what we'd call typically like a native mobile app. So what that means is that there's native code, meaning code that is actually written for the phone specifically, or written for the computer even. So like another app would be like the Zoom app that we're all using right now on our computer. So that's an app as well. It's just possibly running our computer, actually, if you're not using it on your phone. But it, you know, even as it's running on our computer, that's really not that much different from an app on your phone, or an app even for you know, like a gaming console or something like that. Like these are all apps. Apps are just small programs or applications that are designed to have like a function that we might find useful or something like that. And what's become popular over the last like decade or so, or even more than that now, is the ability to make these very quickly and to provide functions that are really connected. So we can have internet access in our apps, like we can have network connectivity. We have like sort of like authentication where I have a user that I can log in with. So think of like Gmail or something like that. This is getting really common with apps that you and I can create very easily. Like we don't have to rely on Google or Facebook to make these apps anymore. You can, with these kind of frameworks that I'm going to kind of walk through some of, you can make these on your own. They'll have authentication. You can have user accounts. You can have like databases that store information about the user that can be accessed again, so that the user kind of has like a history and a relationship with your app. This is all stuff that's like pretty recent. Like this is not, you know, this is not stuff that really could happen very easily for even like a hobbyist or someone that's passionate about starting something new. It wasn't as easy as it is now, and it really is getting like a lot easier. And so hopefully I'm going to introduce everyone here to resources that you can use. You know, it kind of demonstrates how much more accessible this is. But so we talked a little bit about native apps, and what's made a lot of this technology a lot easier to use is this idea of a hybrid app. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about specifically, and the framework I'm going to introduce is sort of this style of hybrid app. So I think hybrid app is basically going to be, it's going to allow us to write code or use code, which would be like the kind of the like foundation for our application, the foundational like you know, brick and mortar of our application. This code, the kind of code that we're going to have to write is not going to be native code. So it's not going to be specific to iOS, like, you know, the iPhone. It's not going to be specific to Android, like Google's sort of platform, and it's not going to be specific to Windows necessarily. What we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to write code in almost like an arbitrary framework. In this case, we're going to write actually web code. So they actually break all these different types of applications down. But with our hybrid app, we're going to be able to write web code, which is HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. We're going to be able to write this code that can actually be used in a browser like I have open right now. So you could consider this isn't so much a web app, but think of like something like Twitter. So if I go to Twitter, this is what's commonly considered a web app. It's an application that's running in the web browser, and it's using the web to like work effectively. So So we can write code that would run this app, and then we can use a framework like Ionic to actually port that same code. So we can just use the code that we already wrote for our web app, and we can actually port it over to a native environment, like a mobile environment, like iOS, like Android. And these frameworks are gonna like make it really easy for us to do that. We don't really have to write that much additional code. We can use that same code that we already have, and we can work in an environment that I think objectively most people consider a lot more flexible and also common. And I think Marina, you wanted to mention something.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a piece for context for all of you if this feels like very new and different. The web app opportunity is really, really exciting if you just want to test to see if your product works. I say that because a lot of the times, like if you find bugs, or if your customers or clients or people who are using your app are telling you a feature that they don't like, or they think that you can improve upon, a web app is a really easier way to deploy those changes in real time. So you can edit your code. I mean, the developers edit the code, and it all can happen right again in real time, versus if you have more of like a mobile app version, you're going to have to ask your customers or people who downloaded your app, hey, do you want to update for edits, or do you want to update for new features that are available in the app? That takes a little longer because people have to consent to that update, versus a web app, you can do that in real time. So it's really, really good opportunity if you're starting off new and you just want to test to see if your idea works. Yeah, this web app is a really good way to do so.
Yeah, that's actually, thanks for weighing in on that, Marina, because that's actually a really, really good point. Also, not to mention the update kind of like pattern that you have to follow for apps, but the publishing involved for mobile apps. So to publish a mobile app, as I'm sure everyone here is probably aware at this point, like you either have, if you have a smartphone, if you're using a smartphone, you probably have Android, or you have an iPhone, or maybe you have possibly a Windows phone. But all of those application sources that you use to get your apps, you have to go through Play Store, or you have to go through at the Apple Store or the App Store on from Apple. As a developer, if you want to create an app, you have to publish through those application like hosting sources, and that's, you have to often pay money for that, but there's also kind of development effort involved in doing that. So you have to like set up what would be called a build, so what's going to pull all of your code together and package it nicely so that you can get that app out to people on that platform. All of that takes a lot of work, and I think Marina makes a really good point that like that's just so much faster and easier with a web-based application. So when you build a web app, you can get to the end product way faster. So that's, yeah, I think that's a really good big benefit.
And I'll also mention that process, right, of submitting it to the app stores, whether that's like the Samsung or Apple, so iOS, that's such a great learning opportunity for people who are interested in computer science or interested in app development. So I say that because if that's not your wheelhouse, I know students, I know university professors who are teaching computer science, and they want their students to learn that type of skill. Again, right, if you have the vision and the goal, but don't necessarily want to do the back end like development side, I know people who can help and support you through those channels. So just letting you know.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think especially can be super daunting early on. But yeah, tons of people have walked that road, thankfully. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that kind of resource. So that's actually, a lot of this is in big part why I wanted to introduce this idea of hybrid apps. So we kind of skipped ahead, and I introduced this idea of a native app specifically. So again, that's something where you're going to write code like they're mentioning here. We're going to write Swift code or code in Objective-C for iOS, or we'd write Java, or using this platform called Kotlin to write Android apps. So this would create a native app where we're writing what's called native code for that app. There's this sort of route, which I think is becoming less and less common, because we have not only the prevalence or the predominantly like more popular, I would say at this point, web application platforms. So way more people are producing web applications for the browser, like the sort of Twitter website, or like using Facebook or something like that. But now, because of this, to kind of follow suit, we can sort of bring it back to now this idea of a hybrid mobile app. So I think I kind of touched on it before, but hopefully just to kind of sum it up, we can write web code, essentially JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and test our app and really flesh it out and figure out how it's supposed to function and what purpose it's supposed to serve, like Marina's talking about. And then we can bring it eventually to mobile very easily at this point in time, like with all of the frameworks we have available. We can use something like Ionic and some of the others I'll introduce to actually just take all that web code we've worked on, all of the web platform code we've iterated on, and we can now just package that up very nicely to work on a native platform. So it's a very powerful tool. This is like, I think, one of the most successful routes that you can take, and like really the route that I'm most familiar with, that until you're really getting like very big, like somewhere like Google or something, where your whole business is sort of centered around the performance of your application, or maybe the efficiency of your application, you really don't have to go this route, the native mobile app route, until you kind of really want to make some tweaks. But even actually with the hybrid app route, we still have the opportunity to be really fast and efficient, because native code is going to let us do that. But anyway, I just wanted to give some context for the kind of framework that I'm going to introduce to you. If that was like a little bit techie or sort of like in the weeds, please forgive me. I promise. We're not going to live there too much. I hope it can really just be me showing you some tools so that you can, again, just get more and more familiar with what I'm talking about. But I think this article's still good regardless. It's not super technical. It's going to introduce you to a variety of pros and cons like this. Actually, I didn't even know this was here. Maybe we'll just leave it on this. This is a great way to sum it up. So you notice here with native apps, we're using, like I mentioned, super specific languages for whatever device you're using. And then for web apps, we're still using HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So like what code is actually working to like load this page, for example, or this page, any of these pages really, or like our Twitter. And then the same thing goes for the hybrid app. So we're going to use that code to build our hybrid app, except when we run the hybrid app, it will actually run natively on this phone. So that's what we're going to try to achieve with the frameworks I'm introducing in this series. And you can see some other kind of pros and cons here, which I think really summarize well, like the kind of like experience you can get out of an app that you'll build. Yeah, so feel free to browse this article later on. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of introduce really quickly. Good. That's a good point. Yeah, feel free, like Marina mentioned here in the chat, feel free to like post questions if you want in the Q&A. I think is like anonymous if you're like a little sketched out about putting your name out there. That's totally fine. And I'll actually just answer them live because I think those are popping up for me.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I do see a question.
And I promise you all, I felt so overwhelmed at the beginning. Like all of your concerns, all of your questions are incredibly valid. So I want to empower you all to ask those questions. Don't feel intimidated, because this is a whole new world that is really exciting, and you have to learn the introductory vocabulary, vernacular to be successful. So be confident in yourself and ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, so the first question we have here is actually for Marina. I don't, the question is, so for your office hours, could you put possibly?
I was putting information in the chat that only went to Sean, Celeste, and I. So let me redo that and send it to all of you.
Okay.
That's my bad. So yes, let me get on that.
Great, awesome. Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. So we answered that live. Okay, all right. So again, just please feel free to keep posting questions in the Q&A because I do see those and I'll make sure to answer them. Okay, so so I'm going to kind of proceed here to kind of get into some of these frameworks. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on them because I do really just want to show you like what's out there and maybe kind of differentiate between them, and kind of show some of the more like potentially like just some of the different ones out there. So the first one I had this website pulled up. So this is actually the website that I was looking at. Like we were just looking at an article from their kind of blog. So they have a blog where they talk about all these different things, and you can see here if you do this developers drop down, this is where I got this article, this hybrid versus native apps, where they kind of talk about this. But so the first platform I kind of wanted to present is Ionic. Ionic's been around for quite a while. It's actually 8 years old. It's super popular, and again, all these platforms are going to be for building apps using web code and then getting them to mobile. But also, Ionic lets you build web apps that work in the browser, so you can actually do all of these things with Ionic. But the reason I wanted to mention Ionic specifically is, first of all, they have a great amount of documentation. Oh, and let me just so Barbara really quickly is just asking how to take a screenshot on Zoom. I don't know how to do that. Maybe.
Yeah, I can answer that question really quick. So probably you're gonna have something in your keyboard that says print screen or PRTSC. Sometimes, usually with a keyboard on your laptop or computer. Are you with a laptop or computer or phone?
I'll help her in the chat on the side so you guys can keep going.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you so much, Marina. Oh, and then actually, okay. Yeah, I'll let hopefully Marina and Celeste cover.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah. But also let me know if you need any resources, but I will share all these links. So if anything you see on the screen that I'm sharing, I will share all the links in the chat. So definitely look for any chats from me. They should just only be my links to these sites. So yeah, so this Ionic platform offers a handful of things. So first of all, I think what's really unique about Ionic is, like, imagine once you're at the stage of having a sort of prototyped application. So you've built, or you've sort of spent time coding and building this app. One of the things Ionic lets you do is they provide this platform called a capacitor. I think it is, but they have a variety of other like sort of tools, which basically solve a lot of the problems that Marina and I were talking about here, where you have to publish the app to the app stores that you kind of want to distribute your app to. You also have to make sure that you're sending out updates. You want to provide like hosting for the applications so that you can like have users on your platform and you can let them share information with you. Ionic will help you kind of do all of that. So I think it's like a really great starter platform. I think there is some pricing for, like, you know, once you start to like kind of move further up, like into like your requirements. But this would, so you might imagine doing something like this if you're starting to like maybe build a company off of your application. But they do have really great just like hobby entry level resources. And Marina.
I'll mention something too, and Celeste, feel free to push back. The library has money. Not, obviously, it's not like copious amounts of money to just throw at people, but like there's funding because we want New Haven residents to be successful in their passions and interests. And so if you're thinking that this price point is a barrier to you, have a conversation with us. And if there's enough interest, maybe we can get some sort of like group discount. So just putting that out there. Celeste, push back, but like don't let money be a barrier to follow.
Yeah, I also can mention, I mean, even if it's not the library himself, there is also many databases that provide funding or provide grants for either nonprofits or for businesses. So definitely we can help you. Like we can find the right resource or like the money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And definitely, you know, that's like going to be something you'll want to think about for sure. If you really do want to, you know, I mean, because there are tons of apps out there that just basically start as ideas, and maybe you build a prototype or something like that. But to really build something that you can grow and carry out really does require a handful of resources that you kind of want to be aware of. And so yeah, the library is hopefully can be super helpful for you from that perspective. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Ionic. Just that they offer this this kind of full scale platform for basically everything you would need to do from starting to code your app. So they actually provide a whole framework that I'll talk a little bit more about for coding the app itself. So like, you know, actually let's take a kind of a look here. So if we go over here, I think this is what will probably interest most people. So the way that Ionic works is they've built this sort of code base, which is like a whole repository of code that they built themselves for you to use, that you don't have to do things like, you know, every little detail that you have in mind for your application from scratch. Like you don't have to do that. They're going to provide code for all of this stuff like you see here, like, and more. So like that's kind of what you get when you use something like Ionic. And again, like this system is free. There's nothing like that costs money about using the code base that Ionic provides. What you would pay for maybe eventually is if you wanted help like deploying your app, or you wanted to like have them host your app. So like network it for you. That's something they'll do. But all this stuff is just available to use. In fact, I think it's even open source, meaning that everyone can see the code that was written to build this stuff. But this is really a fantastic resource, because basically once we start looking at like how an app is built, which we'll be starting to do at the next part of the series, I think, where we'll actually dig into like starting to code. We're going to use a framework like this, where all we're really going to focus on is our idea, rather than having to execute a lot of really sort of like core brick and mortar stuff. So again, like all this stuff, and let's just take a really quick look, because I think it's kind of cool. So if I click navigation here in these components, they're going to show me basically all of like the properties or possibilities that I have with this particular component. And they're also going to show me the code that I need to use to actually build a navigation that looks like this, for example, on both Android and for iOS as well.
Can I ask you a question? Maybe you can say this is a question that I can answer down the road or something. Sure. Now. With the difference of the systems like Android or Apple, or do you need to maybe code differently, or you're gonna code the same, and then when you put it in the Apple Store or Google Play, it will be different, like the download of the app?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and that's hopefully what we can achieve using what's called a hybrid app platform like Ionic or framework. What we're hoping to achieve is to not have to have a different source code base, right? We will have to have separate steps for getting our app to iOS, getting our app to Android, but we hopefully don't have to write any additional code. We can write all the same code. And there are, of course, going to be trade-offs with that. If we go back kind of really quick, I think I can just actually go back to their, let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, I just wanted to show this table again, because I think it's really cool. Yeah, so that's kind of like where this table kind of comes into play, because there are disadvantages to building a hybrid app in terms of like what would be called like performance. So even they're going to note themselves, like performance is not going to be the best that you can get building a hybrid app, but that's not really what you're going for necessarily. You kind of want just, I want to build one app and then get it everywhere. So that's definitely the goal with that. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
And another word that you're going to run into that's talking about the same thing is called cross-platform development. So it's basically this, what Paige is saying, right? Building one code and it's able to reach both the Android and Apple apps. So just throwing that out there so you can have it in your vocabulary. Cross-platform development is when developers are writing code for two different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a super good vocabulary to pick up too, because that's generally what you're going to see is that word cross-platform is like super commonly thrown around for this kind of development. And I noticed some Q&A that I'll try to resolve really quick. So I think we hopefully resolve the screenshotting question, and I'm gonna go ahead and resolve that. And then, yeah, so someone mentioned—
I can answer the other ones about the recording. I can answer it. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Okay, so that'll be answered in the chat. So let's kind of move on here from that. So yeah, so we were looking at this kind of pre-made code, which is exactly what this is. This is pre-made code that's kind of ready for us to use in our like more specific code base that we're going to have for our app. Now, a follow-up kind of question that was made is, so where would you paste this pre-made code? So that's a good question. A lot of these applications, they're providing us this framework for writing code, but when it comes to actually writing the code itself, we need to set up a couple of things. I don't think we're going to tackle that exactly today, but I'm going to show one platform specifically that I want to use for this series that will make that super easy, and we can do it actually in the browser. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about one more platform, just to kind of throw the name out there. I don't really want to talk that much about it necessarily, but I just wanted to introduce this one called Xamarin. So Xamarin is just kind of an alternative platform or framework for building apps. It produces cross-platform apps. So that kind of like vocabulary, like we mentioned before, it's going to produce apps that can run on mobile, that can run on Android, iOS, and they can also run on Windows or on a Mac. But it's actually going to produce native code, and we're going to build our code using like sort of Microsoft's framework. So I don't really want to talk too much more about this, but really just get out there that there are bunches of different frameworks. And I'll actually post kind of a link to a lot of the ones that I've come across in my own research, and you can kind of check them out and see. You know, most of them have these sort of about pages that I'd highly recommend looking through. Hopefully, no, we don't want to look at that. Maybe I would say just check out like the Get Started page or something like that, and maybe even just supported platforms is a good place to look on any of these framework sites. So if you come across a framework and you're not sure whether or not it's going to be useful for you, definitely check out this kind of like supported platforms page that's going to be on most sites. So I think like if we go back to Ionic, which I was introducing before, if we kind of go back to their homepage, they'll hopefully tell us in a really convenient place. I know offhand that you can build a web application for the browser, and then you can also build applications to target iOS and Android. But that's kind of what I look for, just generally speaking, as I guess the point I'm trying to get across. Make sure you know exactly what you're going to target and what you're going to be able to target when you look at these frameworks. Don't just be dazzled by their, I guess, like a really fancy looking UI. You definitely want to know, like, if you have a dream in mind or an idea of like where you want your app to be used, make sure you're building something that's going to get you there. So I think I'm kind of done introducing these sort of different frameworks, and I think I want to stick with one in particular. Oh, Marina, did you have something you
Yeah,
wanted
Paige,
to?
and so Paige just said the word UI. If you all don't know what that means, it stands for user interface.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically just like the beauty, the aesthetics, the actual look of the screen of the app, of the page. So UI, and I'll put in the chat, stands for user interface. And then UX is similar. It stands for user experience. So when you're developing an app, you want obviously your user to have a really easy, like low hanging fruit experience with your app, and nothing's complicated, because if it's complicated, they'll cancel immediately. They won't even like log on or create an account. And so those two are, for me, I'm just trying to tell you all, like those are really hard vocab words for me to learn at the beginning. So UI, user interface, and UX, user experience. I'll put those in the chat.
Yeah, that's also really good tenets to kind of hit on, because that's, yeah, a really great point. Like all of these components to app building are super valuable and critical. And if you are more interested in one or the other, sort of like I want to work on designing applications. I want to make applications look a certain way. I want to have like maybe a certain aesthetic, or maybe you're more sort of creatively minded and you're interested in making a very beautiful looking application, versus sort of the user experience side, which would be just optimizing like how easy it is to use an application or how easy it is to perform a certain process. I think those are all super valid approaches and ways to get into app making, and hopefully you can work on any of that sort of stuff with minimal sort of code requirements. You can get ramped up hopefully pretty quickly. So I wanted to kind of land on, in the last 10 or so minutes that we have here today, hopefully we've introduced a couple of different vocabulary words. You're hopefully getting a little more familiar in this kind of short time that we have with the frameworks that are kind of out there, the differences between native apps and hybrid apps and web apps, and kind of learned a little bit more about maybe like what you in particular have in mind for like your interests, like what you might want to work on specifically, whether it's code or design. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is actually the framework that I would like to use for this series, and what I'll hopefully get more deeply into next time, where we actually start putting some code down and maybe working on a feature for our kind of like sample application. And there's a question here. So wireframing. So I guess we're asking for the definition of wireframing. I think I have an idea of what wireframing is, but maybe Marina, you
Yes.
seem eager.
Yeah, great question. Wireframing, if you're thinking about it as like a writer, for example, you're telling the story of your app. So if you are like the writer for a film or a movie or a show, you would want to storyboard all the scenes of your show. That's the same thing for apps, right? The story of your app is each screen, when they sign on, and then what's the first experience that they have with your app, and how are they kind of continuing on in their journey with your app. That's wireframing. So wireframing is you as the developer or the visionary kind of drawing out and writing the story of your app. I put in the chat, Figma is a really free open source site for you to just create the screens of the app that you want. And if you sign up for my office hours, I can teach you how to connect all those screens together. It basically feels like an app, and you can send those to investors, to donors, to people who you might want to like actually develop your app if you don't have any experience with coding. That's what I did, right? Like I created the screens, I prototyped them, and I kind of told the story of what I wanted DreamKit to be. And then I had people join my team who had that more technical skill set after I did that. So all that to say, wireframing is telling the story of your app.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so much. Because that approach is also like really important. I think it'd be even harder. I mean, with the apps that we're going to try to sort of build throughout this series, I'm not really going to do so much of that kind of like or show so much of that planning phase as I think you really should spend time doing. But maybe it will be helpful, hopefully, in the future. Maybe we can sit down and kind of storyboard out each time before we add a feature. Maybe we'll talk about kind of like, okay, why are we going to add this feature? What will it look like? And then we'll try to code it only after doing that, because I think that's just as valid to do. You can't really code if you don't know like what you're going to do before you do it. So yeah, that's definitely super important. So the last thing, like I said, we're going to do today is just introduce this framework that I hope to use and kind of familiarize us for the series. It's called Native Script. The kind of like, I guess the allure or the promotion behind Native Script is that basically you're going to write web code, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We're going to use their framework, which will allow us to port that code into a native application for mobile, specifically mobile platforms. But we'll also be able to use that web code to build web apps as well if we want to do that, so in the browser. And we have a ton of options for building these applications. These two in particular are very, very popular, what are called front-end frameworks, where front-end refers to the like code that builds the part of the app that we're actually seeing with our eyes. So this web page, for example, the front-end code controls like what happens when I click this button, how these boxes appear on the page. That's front-end code. And these frameworks is what they would be called, are going to allow us to like build front-end code very easily for our app. So I'm going to be using this framework in the series for a lot of different reasons, but mainly because it has a really good documentation, and it also has a really unique web app actually. So Native Script, they've actually built a web app in which you can make your web app. So you don't have to download necessarily what's called like a development environment. If you're just kind of getting your feet wet, you can build all of your code inside of their application, and then you can actually even host your app, your mobile app, on your device using their web tool. So we can kind of get started with that, but I just wanted to mention that this is also a free and open source framework, meaning that there's no cost to use this framework. You can publish your code, your application, without having to pay Native Script, like any kind of licensing fees or anything like that. So it's great for hobbyists and also just enthusiasts trying to get started. So if you were to go to this website here, nativescript.org, and you click Get Started, we can go ahead and click Start a Tutorial right here. You can also click Play with Sample Apps, which I'll open kind of in the background here. But this will just take you to like a bunch of different like little simple apps. If you click Samples, yeah. So if you click Samples here, this is just going to take you to a bunch of sample applications built with Native Script that you can kind of like check out and see sort of like what's possible. But I think also what was most interesting to me is just if you click Start a Tutorial here, this takes you to the platform that we're going to be using for the majority of the series. So this is called the Native Script Playground. And I think this is a good place to stop, because this is where we'll pick up next time, where I'll actually try to walk us through like what's going on in this playground, and how we're going to use it to build apps. But yeah, I think this is hopefully a pretty good place to stop. If anyone has any like last minute questions, I'll be happy to answer. I know we covered like a ton of stuff. This is my first time doing like a series like this, like so introductory, but also like meant to kind of really give you everything you need to like kind of jump in and start working on something like this. So please like give me feedback, and please like feel free to ask questions, and I'll try to get you answers. But hopefully, if you are curious enough you can go to this website, and I encourage you to check out this part. So if you click interactive tutorials, you can just get started like immediately, and you can start clicking around. And I think it's pretty good. It's pretty well guided. I found like it to be like okay, trying to think from the perspective of a true beginner. So I definitely encourage you to try it out if you get a chance. Yeah, so I think that kind of concludes everything that I wanted to cover today, and that's kind of the end of our time. But yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, please like ask them now. Don't hesitate. I will certainly take the time to answer them.
We have a question page about if you can mention a little bit on what is gonna be like the second part, or maybe the event like next session on the 26th.
Yeah, great question. So basically for the second part, what I'd like to do is just get our hands a little bit dirty, or hopefully as dirty as you want them to be, with however much you're comfortable writing code. But we're definitely going to start adding to, I think, this sample application. So we're going to like zoom out and hopefully think about the way this sample application looks right now. I think this sample app is just a really, like there's really nothing in here. I think it's just basically there's some text that we can see coded here. The way we're going to preview the app is actually using, again, their app. You will download it on our device, and we'll get this QR code, which we'll then use to preview the app that we're coding right here. So we'll basically write code, and then we'll be able to preview the code that we've written on our phones if we have the ability to use our phones for this. And then hopefully, yeah, from there we can just kind of figure out what features we'd like to. I'm not sure yet what feature in particular I would like to like get us started with, but certainly something nothing too wild. And we'll also talk about like how the feature should look, and trying to like we'll try to navigate towards what we thought of to begin with. So get used to like, I have an idea, I'm going to try to make it happen. Yeah.
I think I also want to add too that Paige and I are super available via email if you wanted to submit some sort of feedback and request for what the next session looks like, right? Like this is your show and you all are in control, and we're just trying to support you in that way. Additionally, if you are a non-technical founder of a business or just someone interested in an app but don't necessarily want to do a deep dive into coding, I highly recommend you still go to Paige's next session, because it's so important for you to have that like very just top of mind language around coding and just kind of get those vocabulary sit and let them sit in your brain, because that'll help you so much when you meet with a development team and kind of have them execute your vision. So even if this feels overwhelming, still go and just get exposure to it so that you have the vocabulary. And again, like you can sign up for my office hours and we can kind of ideate and brainstorm what it means to be a non-technical founder of an app and how to strategize about that moving forward.
Yeah, thanks. That's again, super important. I mean, I know I'm trying to find a tight balance between super technical and like non-technical, because I know that basically the more I throw out there, hopefully like whatever sticks is going to be valuable to you. I mean, honestly, if anything, if you just like vaguely remember some of the names I threw out, at least hopefully when you're Googling later, you're trying to learn a little more, you can say, oh, okay, I kind of like remember that, and you're getting warmer or put in the right direction. But yeah, always feel free to ask questions, and yeah, shoot me an email. And I just wanted to point out there's a QA, an item here. Let's see, that I just wanted to address. So the sessions are going to be every other week. So like there won't be one next week, but the week after a session like this. However, I have office hours every Monday for an hour long. So every Monday, or I'm sorry, they're not an hour, they're 30-minute blocks for a total of 2 hours. So 30-minute sessions that you can sign up for. Celeste, if you don't mind, I don't actually remember the link. to the
I
office
can
hours?
share it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so Celeste will share the office hours link. But yeah, please sign up for those. Like that's really actually when I can help like individuals the most. And same goes for Marina, I'm sure. Like it's always easier, like because you can give us context and we can like address your concerns specifically. And hopefully I can put you on the right track in those scenarios. So if you're super passionate and you already want to get started, like I can try to like give you some more targeted advice in those. And then how many sessions and how far will you take this? I think I'm looking to go at least till March. If you know we get like a lot done. So I think that's 6 sessions basically. So 2 this month, 2 in February, 2 in March, maybe 3 in March. So it'll be 6 sessions total. Really, it's just going to depend on how, you know, kind of quickly I can cover ground. I don't want to move so fast that people feel lost and behind, but I also want to make sure that people get like as much as they can out of this. Yeah, I'm glad to know that hopefully that's a good bit. Hopefully we can, I mean, my goal is to give everyone the opportunity to see some stuff that they've never seen before, and at most like feel confident in using a platform like this to build an app. Yeah, right. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everyone hopefully feels level 1 and we'll all be level something above 1 by the end, I hope. So yeah, that's definitely the goal. I don't want to hold everyone over time. I'll try not to do that going forward, but thanks so much for joining. It really means the world to me, and I hope you feel like you are at least a little more confident about the world of applications, whether they be web app or otherwise. And thanks again to Marina for joining us. She definitely just did this because yeah, seriously, thank you so much. And I think will be proved to be a super valuable resource for everyone. So definitely take advantage of it for sure. And thank you to Celeste, who works with the library. Thanks for coordinating all of this. And again, thanks to all the attendees. Really appreciate everyone joining us.
All right, thank you so much, and hope to see you. Send your questions if you have, and thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for having us.